And now, the Sunday Sit-Down with Jack Encarnacio.
Welcome back to the Sherdog Radio Network Rewind. I'm Jack Encarnacio. And it's once again time for the Sunday Sit-Down. Joining us tonight is Ronda Rousey, the top contender for the Strikeforce Bantamweight Championship. She's racked up 4 consecutive first-round finishes in her pro mixed martial arts career. And up next, she faces Miesha Tate in one of the biggest female fights in recent memory, March 3rd in Columbus, Ohio, on Showtime. Ronda, thanks so much for taking the time and joining us tonight.
No problem. Always a pleasure to talk to you guys.
Thanks very much. What we try to get at in these types of interviews, Ronda, is to get a better sense, a better flavor of where a particular fighter comes from, what their life story is, as opposed to just what their outlook is on the next fight. I know the next fight is very, very big for you, and you've done a marvelous job setting the stage for anticipation in this fight. I want to get an idea of where those instincts come from and what in your background speaks to your ability not only to perform so well in competition, but to draw attention to yourself in a positive way, in a way that makes that benefits anybody who's tied into that enterprise. If we can start just simply with where you were born and what your childhood was like.
I was born in Riverside, California, and we lived there until I was about 3, and then we moved to North Dakota. Hold on one second. People are constantly calling me now. We moved to North Dakota. I was told we moved because my sister was allergic to smog, but it turns out that we moved because my one sister was on a bus on the way to school and saw someone get shot in the face.
Oh, man.
And my dad, he wanted to retire anyway, and he was, was a very outdoorsy, liked hunting type, so... And I had speech problems. I couldn't really talk. And so my mom got offered a job teaching as a professor at the University of Minot, which actually had a world-famous speech therapy program. So we moved to Minot, North Dakota. And my dad was retired for 2 months before he got bored and started working again. And my mom was teaching up there. And I was a swimmer. I actually started swimming when I was around 6. And that was about the same time I started talking. And, I could talk. It's just, I knew exactly what I wanted to say in my head, but it would come out as gibberish, and, I would just remember being frustrated all the time that I would want to say something and no one would get it. But I started talking around then. I started swimming. And then, what's it called? My dad broke his back while we were up there. We were studying one day. He broke his back. And it turns out that he happened to have a disease that's in 1 in a million people called Bernard-Stiegler syndrome, which is really similar to hemophilia. And he couldn't heal from it, and several years later he died. And I was about 8. And so I was swimming still, but that was the thing me and my dad did together, and, I wasn't really into it anymore. And then we moved back to L.A. because my mom, met my stepdad, Dennis, who's fabulous. He's a rocket scientist and just cool in every way. So we moved back to L.A., and my mom, she never really talked about her doing judo when we were kids, but, she started visiting her old teammates and stuff like that. It all opened up judo clubs of their own. And so I tried out judo, and I thought it was amazing. Swimming was kind of boring. There's only one way to do a freestyle or backstroke. And, judo was just really cool, and you could be creative with it, and it was fun, and, what's it called? But I just assumed I would win the Olympics in it, right away. So when I was about 16, I was training full-time, and I decided to drop out of school and start just training full-time for the Olympics. And about 2 months after I decided to do that, I tore my knee out. And so I spent the whole, about 2003, only doing ground games. My mom was, well known for only her arm bars and stuff like that because she tore out her knees and she was young into her career. And so by the end of 2003, I went from not ranked at all in the seniors. In August, I did my first senior tournament. And then by that October, I was number 1 in the country. And then by that April, I won the Pan American Championships. And then by that August, I was on my first Olympic team. So I was from 2003 2004. I went from unranked to at the Olympics.
Wow, there's the life story right there. Tell us a little bit more. Yeah, you're probably used to telling it by now. All of a sudden, so many media demands on you. Is it wearing on you, Ronda, honestly, or are you enjoying it?
like I'm finding ways to just kind of fit it in around anything else. I'm like sitting in traffic right now. What else am I doing?
Yeah, okay, cool. On your parents, you had mentioned that your mother, kind of kept some of her proclivities for judo. I don't want to say secret, but it didn't seem like it was an overwhelming thing in the household. I always wondered if growing up, the daughter of the first American woman to capture a judo world championship meant that it was all judo all the time when you were a kid in your household.
No, not at all. I didn't know anything about it until I found a scrapbook that my Aunt Joy put together. My mom wasn't big into saving newspaper articles or anything like that. She wasn't the type to brag. She wanted to win the world championships in judo, to be the best in the world, not to brag about it. And so I found the scrapbook and I saw all these things and I thought it was so amazing, and that my mom was the best in the world in something, and that I didn't really know what judo was, though, until we moved to LA and I actually got to do it.
You mentioned that she was a professor. What did she teach?
Well, she taught psychology, but now she's like a world-famous statistician. Like, she's invited to come to the TED Talks, and she teaches at conferences all the time. What's really funny is my last fight, where I fought Julia Budd, we were both on the Las Vegas calendar for the same day. My mom was invited to speak at a statistics conference, which is, the funny thing is, what she was talking about was how to do survival analysis, and what she used as an example for survival analysis is me and my fights, because all my fights had ended, so quickly that she would, show, like, how she would calculate the probability that of how long, someone is likely to last against me until they lose.
Wow.
Yeah, and so she was showing how you would solve that statistically to find the probabilities and stuff like that. And she talked about that at the statistics conference, and she went straight from there to my fight. And, turns out that statistics work because I won quickly again.
That's something. Well, yeah, the daughter, all the test case that she needs there. You mentioned your father and losing him when you were quite young. Tell us a little more about him. What was he like?
My mom, she told me that when she first met him, the only thing that he had in his kitchen was a bottle of Jack Daniels, a carton of Marlboros, and a Magnum.
Okay.
He got every single award he could get in the Army for sharpshooting. He tried to sign up for the Army early when he was 17, and he wanted to go to Korea, but then they found out he was underage and he couldn't go. What's it called? He was an amazing shot. He taught me how to shoot a gun when I was 6. We used to go hunting all the time. That was our thing. We had a bunch of dogs and stuff like that. We would go and off-roading and go shoot things and cook them and eat them. And he looked exactly like Tom Selleck. He was pretty much like Magnum PI.
Did he have the stash?
He had the stash. That's why I'll never date a man with a mustache, because he reminds me of my dad too much.
Okay, so a tip. So, well, let me ask you this. Did he have any athletic proclivities at all? I mean, is the judo blood just from your mom?
No, he did basketball. He was on, I think he was on his varsity basketball team every year of high school, and they won state championships every year of high school. And he was going to college, but he was just getting promoted so quickly. He worked for General Dynamics, and what he pretty much did was he would run these entire mile-long factories and made airplanes. And he never got to graduate college because he was just going so far through the company that he didn't need an education anymore. But I knew he was always kind of bummed about that. So the one thing we used to do all the time, we would stay up late and watch Wild Discovery and documentaries. So I'm so into documentaries because me and my dad would stay up late and watch Discovery Channel every night.
That's interesting. Now, I'd read that when you were, I think, 8, your dad was struggling with the blood disorder you had mentioned, and he wrote you a note. Can you tell me a little bit about that note?
He didn't write us a note. He wasn't healing from the thing, so they tried putting a metal rod in his back, and his spine just started to crumble away from it. So then they told him that he had 2 years to live until he slowly became a paraplegic and then a quadriplegic, and then he would die. So he didn't want to be a burden on us, and so he told my mom that he didn't want our last memories of him to be in a bed with tubes running in and out of him. So he just kind of took things into his own hands. And the thing that sucks is I didn't even know that he was dying for all these years. They didn't want us to know. They didn't want us to worry. So this is all happening pretty much all through my childhood, and he just was in pain all the time, and he hid it from us. And just one day he was dead, and we found out all about this.
Oh, it all came at once. Well, that sounds really difficult, but at the same time, it sounds like, Rhonda, it wasn't, a very long and involved grief. It sounds like it was just like a punch to the gut right away.
Yeah.
What did he think about your abilities in your future? I'd read that he'd once told you that you were going to be the best in the world at something one day.
Yeah, well, everyone thought I was retarded or something was wrong with me, and his name was Ron, and I was Ronda. He always wanted a boy. And they cut my hair short, and everyone called me Ronnie. And I was like the little boy, pretty much. And he used to always tell everyone that Ronnie's a sleeper. She's going to show everybody. She's going to win the Olympics. She's going to be the best of them. Just watch. Like my mom was always so worried that I would never be able to catch up or be normal, but my dad was always just so sure that I would, be great. And he always told me that I was destined to be great and I was going to win the Olympics and I could do anything. And they never let me feel abnormal or behind. I found out about that later, too. I never thought I had any problems. Everyone thought I was deaf or there was something wrong with my hearing because of my speech. But, they put me through all these tests and stuff all the time, and my hearing was fine. It's for some reason I couldn't talk. And, my dad, he never was the least bit fazed about it. He always had faith in me.
How old were you, Rhonda, when you lost your dad?
I was 8.
8 years old. And so you had already hit the judo mat, so he was already saying you were going to be an Olympic champ, even though you don't...
No, I didn't start judo until after he died. I was swimming then. I didn't start judo until right before I turned 11. My first tournament was on my 11th birthday.
Wow. So he saw something coming. How often do you think about him? I mean, I'm sure you think about him as much as anybody who went through what you went through, but as you've actually excelled in an athletic career, I'm sure some of the things he said was just like, wow, that's something that he said that.
Well, like coming up to this fight, I've been thinking about him a lot. Because this is the kind of thing he really would have loved to see. He would have been really proud of me for this. And I thought about him a lot around the Olympics and stuff like that. Like when I feel like I'm on the verge of something big, I feel like he's the one that really wanted it for, not just wanted, just believed in me so much. Like when he was a veteran, so he had his American flag from his coffin, and we brought it to Beijing. And we brought it and waved it in the stands, and I won my medal. And I remember I wanted to bring it on the podium with me so bad. They wouldn't let me bring his flag on the podium with me.
Oh yeah, wow, that's
yeah.
Just part of your story and part of your background. Now, if I'm hearing correctly, Ron, it sounds like after all was said and done, when you were a kid, really it was just a speech issue, right? In terms of folks thinking there was something wrong, there was nothing medically wrong with you as a child or anything.
No, it was kind of like when I was born, the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck. Everyone thought I was dead, and I got some sort of brain damage from it. The thing is, when you're a baby, you don't have any neurological shortcuts in your brain yet. Like if I got the same kind of brain damage now, it'd probably be an irrevocable amount of damage. But when you're a baby, it's kind of like you're a blank slate. So it's just that, my brain's organized different now, I guess, than any other kid would be, because I guess part of my brain died or whatever. And that might even be the reason why, I'm left-handed. Who knows, It's just I had to develop differently because, the chemistry in my brain was different from how I was born.
Also, in talking about childhood, you put out a blog this week through the Strike Force PR folks talking about where you came from, and one of the things you said was you're a pale white girl with a thick North Dakota accent studying. And
no, I didn't say that. That was the ghostwriter guy that they sent me an original article that somebody else wrote, and I thought it was terrible, and I rewrote it, and that was in the original one that I didn't write.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll discard that. Did you go to a 99% Mexican Catholic school?
I did, with a North Dakota accent, and I did not fit in.
Yeah, how was that?
Well, my sisters fit in because, I'm half Venezuelan. My sisters look a lot more like it than I do. But, yeah, I had so much trouble with English. I really didn't learn any Spanish. So I didn't really fit in, and I didn't really have any friends. And, when I started doing judo, that's kind of where I just kind of found reprieve from all that stuff, and I kind of found my social life and my outlet, and I just kind of entirely dove into it. I don't know. It was judo and fighting has been the one constant in my life where, I ran away from home a week or so after I turned 18, and I still just kept doing judo. It was just with any kind of chaos that was going on, I was just always fighting. And when I quit doing judo and everybody in judo that, didn't want to talk to me or anything anymore, I switched to MMA, and that just became everything that I wanted to do, even with everything else in my life is just falling apart, at least I always had fighting.
It's interesting to hear you say it, because when I've heard and read interviews you've done about making the run and becoming a judo bronze medalist, it seemed like a very lonely existence for you.
Well, I was estranged from my family a lot of the time that I was doing my second Olympic run. Yeah, it was kind of lonely, and there was one point where I just kind of told everyone in USA Judo to go screw themselves too, and I went and moved to Montreal, and I was training there with no coaches and just did everything kind of on my own for a while. From when I was 18 to 21, I lived in LA, in Chicago, upstate New York, Boston, and Montreal. I just would move and move and move and move, and I was just kind of like this nomadic fighting person, and that's kind of how I went from being really shy and introverted to having to be kind of that more, in-your-face kind of brazen personality that a lot of people see now.
Yeah, and you can tell that that's been kind of honed in several different places with several different types of people. If you look back at that time, Ronda, why would you say you were bouncing around so much? What was it inside of you that prompted that?
I left home, and I just felt like there were a lot of people that didn't have their best interests that were trying to influence me, So I've been disappointed by a lot of people that were, just, I don't know. There are a lot of coaches and other things, and just people. I was just really disappointed. A lot of people. I felt like I trusted a lot of people I shouldn't have, and I just felt like. And I think in psychology it's called going geographic. Mm-hmm. If you, a lot of times people just change the location to feel like they'll change their problem.
Did it work for you doing that?
A lot of times things helped. A lot of times the same problems would follow me around, but I really felt like I grew a lot from that, and I met a lot of great people that are still my friends to this day, and I saw a lot of other people's true colors, and I kind of learned the true meaning of the saying, there's friends for a reason, friends for a season, friends for the rest of your life. And I really felt like I went from being an extremely sheltered Catholic girl at 18 to a kind of hearted and weathered, international judoka at 21.
Yeah, it's remarkably fast to pick up all those life experiences. I mean, it sounds like what you're describing is in the space of 4 years. I mean, if you met Ronda Rousey on one side of those 4 years or so, you'd meet a totally different person than 4 years later.
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like I entirely live my life in quadrennials. Every set of 4 years, I feel like I've been an entirely different person.
That's interesting. How would you describe who you are today? What kind of person are you?
Not scared. I'm much more fearless than I used to be, and I think 4 years ago I was much more concerned about, what people thought of me and, what, who I was pleasing all the time. I wanted to make everybody happy all the time, and a lot of times I would do that at the expense of myself, and I think now it's just, I've kind of found that I'm just going to do whatever makes me happy, and people that really care about me are going to care about me regardless.
About your mother, who I mentioned earlier and who you've talked about, was a decorated judoka in her own right, kind of a trendsetter for female judicas. She captured the World Championships in 1984, first American female judoka to do that.
No, first American
First
period
American,
to do that.
yeah. Excuse me,
Yeah.
first American. At the time, though, I don't believe there was female judo in the Olympics until 1992, right?
In 1988, they had it as a demonstration sport, and we did have some women medal, Lynn Losky and Margie Castro. But in 1992, it was made a fully fledged and recognized sport.
Do you have any sense? And I'm honestly, and I apologize for this ignorance. I don't know if your mother ever got to compete in the Olympics, and if she didn't, did she kind of regret not having that chance? She sounded like she was immensely talented.
No, she didn't regret it at all because back when she was competing, countries were still boycotting the Olympics. Like the 1984 Olympics, we had a couple people medal, but it was kind of more of an empty thing because a lot of countries didn't participate. My mom said that back then the Olympics, you weren't the best in the world; you were the best of whoever showed up. And she didn't care about any kind of fame or notoriety. She just wanted to be the best in the world.
How did she learn judo?
I guess she was like 12, and she was like a fat little kid that just sat around and read library books all the time. And one day her mom kicked her out of the house. She said, "Go to the Y and go join a sport." And there weren't that many sports for girls back then, And it happened to be that the judo coach at the Y, his little sister wanted to do judo, and he didn't have any girls for her, so he was letting girls do the class. And she started, and that was it.
Was the armbar her calling card? Did she transfer that to you? You'd mentioned earlier that the armbar was something that she emphasized because of, I think, bad knees. Yeah,
she tore her knees out at 17. And the reason why my mom was so successful is she was extremely innovative. Back at the time, the very traditional, pretty Japanese judo was the only style that a lot of people used, and a lot of the women didn't cross-train or do anything like that. And my mom was the first one to really just have an entirely ground-based game, and she just did so much cross-training that she was strong as an ox, So all these other girls are trying to do these fancy throws and not training outside of just doing, they're just doing judo, whereas my mom was, lifting and cross-training and doing all this stuff and just drilling armbars all the time. So that's one of the first things she had me doing, I was 11 years old, and if she thought I was being, lazy in the house, she would either like make me put ankle weights on and do like uchikomis, which is like, like you do these kind of like fit-ins for throws, and she would make me do it like there was like a metal railing in the house, so I'd have these ankle weights on, and I would do it, and you'd have to be perfectly straight, or I would hit my foot on the railing with the weight on, and it would really hurt my feet. So I had to do these like all the time, or she would have me like drill arm bars and stuff all the time, just all the time. So that's why it's such like an innate thing for me to do, because it's just second nature.
Have you ever been armbarred?
Yes, I have. I think it's so funny that I read Misha's blog today about how I've been pampered. Oh my God, I just laugh when I see that. I remember this was one of the times I got armbarred was 2005. I was fighting the German Open, and I was fighting this Finnish girl, and I was winning. You go, which is like okay score. And at the very end of the fight, I threw her with a drop ochi, which I left my arm out, and she armbarred me, and then she popped my elbow out. And I remember thinking in that moment, I was like, ouch. Well, it's already out, and there's only 45 seconds left. I might as well just try to get out of this. So I tried to get out, and I wiggled around, and my elbow popped back into place, and she popped it out again, and I was like, ah, damn it. So then I was so stubborn. I was like, damn it, she already popped it out twice. There's no, there's no way I'm giving up now. So then I got out, and I fought the rest of the match, and, I won without, I won with my arm the way it was, and then I had to fight again right after that. I can remember I couldn't put my arm back down to my side. I had to keep it up, because if I let it fall down to my side, I couldn't pick it up again. And then the girl I fought next was Olympic bronze medalist Urška Zolnir from Slovenia, and I barely lost to her, and then I went down to the losers bracket, and I won two more matches. It was like one or two more matches before I lost again. Oh, no, I lost. First I lost to Lucy Dupas, who is a world champion from France. Then I fought some German chick and some other chick and won those two, and then I fought Urška Zolnir. So then I had to do all that with my elbow dislocated, all messed up. And then My coach didn't believe me about any of it, and he made me go through the whole training camp. But by the time I got home, my elbow was just the size of a grapefruit. And then in one of my most favorite matches ever was the semifinals, 2007 Worlds. I was fighting this chick, Edith Bosch, who was the defending world champion, and I just moved out to that division like a few months before, so it's unheard of to be in the semifinals when you're new to a division. And she did this one move called Wakigatami, which is actually illegal. And the last time I fought her, she did it and got disqualified for it. She dislocated my elbow and, got disqualified, and I finished fighting that day, and I got a bronze that day in the German Open. But then this was at the Worlds, and she did the same thing. I was already behind. She dislocated my elbow. I popped it back in. And with 20 seconds left, I threw her with a one-handed throw with the arm that she dislocated, like right at the bell, and boom, and won. And it was actually in the same venue that they hold all the UFC Rios in. And so it was a packed house, and everyone went nuts, and it was a really cool moment. But, God, that hurts.
Oh, my God, it sounds like absolute torture. I mean, how did that continue? Didn't like, folks overseeing the event have an issue with you competing with that kind of damage to your arm?
Well, the rule is judo, if you call the doctor on, you're disqualified. So I would never let the doctor look at it. I would just pop it back in myself and keep going.
Man. Now, you mentioned Edith Bosch, and that kind of set off a light bulb in my head because I believe you met Edith again in 2008, the year you secured bronze in Beijing.
Yep.
Tell us about that match.
Well, we fought the whole 5 minutes without a score, and then we win the golden score, which is the first point wins. And referees don't really like Americans that much, so I feel like I always had to do twice as much work, just to try and get anything, And my mom always told me, if you leave it up to the judges, you've lost, because they will never ever vote for you. So it was like 4.5 minutes into the golden score. We've been fighting in 9.5 minutes, and I was just like, look, I just got to try and throw a haymaker. I got to make something happen. And I did the exact same throw that I caught her with at the Worlds. There's something that she'd been training for a whole year to counter, and she countered me, right? I was coming into that, and I lost. I went down to the losers bracket and fought my way all the way up again. And I was just so pissed off. I was so sure I was not going to lose another match that day, and I went through and I won the bronze that day. But yeah, we had a 9.5 minute fight. It was a long one.
Yeah. It sounds like a high, some of the highest stakes of your whole life. I mean, going that close and winning a bronze medal at the Olympics and something you trained your whole life at. Does that feel like a higher pinnacle than challenging for an MMA women's title? Does that feel like a bigger sports accomplishment?
Of course it is, because that's something that you have to obsess about. There's a really big saying that they put all over Olympic training centers, and it says, it goes, the Olympics is not every 4 years, it's every day.
Mm-hmm.
And, everyone wants to be an Olympic champion on the day of the Olympics. But going to the Olympics is something I've been thinking about and obsessing about and training for my entire life, and that exact Olympics I've been in every single thought of every day for that 4 years since the one before. And, this title shot with Misha Tate only entered my mind a few months ago. It's not like
right.
It's one day that's the pinnacle of everything that I've been working for my entire life. This is, something that I thought would be a cool idea a few months ago.
And does that at all affect how you'll be able to look at this in terms of motivation and training? I mean, I think a lot of times people talk about motivation and they get questions like that from the media, fighters in mixed martial arts, and they answer them, but I don't know how much of it is really from the heart or not, or just kind of, plain answers. I mean, do you think you even need motivation? Because what you just said makes it sound like you're not particularly motivated to fight, anywhere near as motivated as you were for the Olympics. You wouldn't expect that, but I wonder if you notice kind of a difference in your mentality in a camp for the Olympics versus a camp to challenge for the Strikeforce women's title.
Well, you spoke it as someone who's never been that's not a fighter.
Right, that's right.
I don't get motivated. I am motivated. It doesn't change or move for any event or any amount of time. I am the way I am. I train the way I train. That's just what I do. It's like that whole Muhammad Ali thing that, birds fly, fish swim, and I punch people. You know, it's just like I fight. This is what I do. I don't need to be motivated. This is just who I am.
You mentioned that your mother imparted the advice to you that you can't leave it to judges in judo competition because judges will never go for an American. Why is that?
Well, you know, a lot of Americans that don't spend a lot of time outside their country don't realize how entirely unpopular they are. No one likes us. Everyone wants to beat the Americans. We're the bad guy in every country. That's the weird thing about MMA is I'm not used to people cheering for me. Every time I fought, I'm used to thousands of people booing me. Everyone in the room wants me to lose. My mom would purposely send me to tournaments alone without a coach, places where, you know, she knew that, you know, no one wanted me to win, and I'd get booed just to toughen me up, just so I would know that, you know what, nobody, you know, it could be that everyone there that you're fighting has, you know, better training facilities than you, and they have a better coaching program than you, and they've been studying you, and they have video libraries, and every single person in that room wants you to lose, but fuck them, you're going to win anyway. You know, and she just kind of always drilled that into my head ever since I was a little kid. And when, you know, I walk into a stadium and everyone is cheering for me, it's just like, it's so much more of an advantage that I have never been used to. You know, I'm just like, I really feed off of that, but I feed off of the hate too. So it's just like, you know, my mom, she not only was, you know, a world champion in judo, but she has a PhD in developmental psychology and a master's in education. You know, I am the way I am because she's a very intelligent woman. She knows how to make, you know, the best kind of fighter out there.
And considering that insight that she has into psychology and things like that, has she ever tried to break it down, or were you interested in having it broken down why the Americans are so popular? Like what the root cause, unpopular, excuse me, what the root cause of that unpopularness is?
We never really got into political conversations like that. She just always said that you can't ever expect anyone to win a match for you. And she said, you need to train not just to be in the best in the world. She said, always told me that you need to be training to be the best, so good that you can win every match twice on a bad day, because they're not always going to give it to you the first time, and you're not always going to have a good day. And so
at one
that's
point,
how I train.
At one point, Ronda, would you say you were on track to compete maybe this summer in London instead of, you know, in mixed martial arts for the Strikeforce title? Was there a point where you thought you'd just keep going until you won gold?
Yeah, I tried to come back. I took a year off after the last Olympics, and, you know, I just tried to bartend to be normal, and, you know, I wasn't really happy doing judo anymore, just, you know, because I had a really hard couple years after, you know, I ran away, and I tried coming back, and I went back to Boston. I was training there for a while, and this girl, Yumi Tanimoto, who, you know, won the Olympics at 63 kilos, the division below me, she came over there and trained with us, and she said that she pretty much offered me a job in Japan. She said, you know, Team Komatsu, the company that makes the cranes and stuff, they said, we will pay you to come and train with our team. We'll, you know, you'll pay to train full-time. We'll pay to put you through Japanese school, and you can just do that for a full year. And I knew that's what, you know, I needed to do to be the best in the world. And even though I didn't think it didn't sound too fun. So I went over there, and, you know, they went through all the process to get the visas for me, and, you know, everyone went through all this pain for me. And I was there for a week, and I was just like, I'm absolutely miserable. I hate my life. And I just kind of told them, I was like, look, don't even give me my first paycheck. If this is what I need to do to win the Olympics, I wouldn't, you know, going to the Olympics isn't for me anymore. You know, I'm not willing to be miserable for 4 years so I could possibly be happy for one day. Because I saw how at the last Olympics when I won that medal, it doesn't fix your whole rest of your life. You know, your life continues after that, and people have this disillusioned idea that if they win the Olympics, you know, everything's going to be just, you know, smooth sailing after that. And so I pretty much told them that, and everyone that I trained with in Boston are pretty much, you know, done with me and disowned me, and I pretty much disgraced them, you know, by putting Komatsu through all that and then just leaving, and all of Komatsu pretty much, you know. I pretty much burned all my bridges and no one wanted anything to do with me anymore. And so another saying that my mom would always drill into my head, she said that, success is the best revenge. Even everything that's going on with you, no matter what, who you're mad at or who is mad at you, just take all that energy and put it into succeeding. Because whatever, if you succeed, everything will work out. You can't waste your time just, brooding over everything. So I just came back here to LA and I started picking up jobs. I was, working 3 jobs. I had graveyard shifts and working at 24-Hour Fitness, I was teaching judo. I was doing physical therapy on dogs and training full time. And I remember one day I worked all night and I slept 2 hours and came to go train in the morning, and I went to McDonald's to try and get myself a coffee, and I realized I didn't have any cash in my wallet, and I realized that all my accounts were overdrawn, and I couldn't even get a coffee at McDonald's, I was just at my wit's end, and I just kept pushing through it. And a few months after that, I was, working those overnights, and I was driving back. It was Thanksgiving weekend, I remember, and there was traffic. It was Monday morning by the time I got out of work, and I didn't have anything anymore. I fell asleep in traffic, and I smashed my face on the steering wheel, and, I was just I earned this. And anyone that thinks that I've been pampered is just completely delusional. I've been through everything, and I've been through this my whole life. This is everything I've been working for a year, and this was a year ago. This wasn't a long time ago. This was a year ago where I was, I was living off the Costco diet, and, I was just barely scraping by to get enough food for my dog. And everyone's like, oh, she's doing this too fast. I'm like, dude, I had to do this fast. What else am I supposed to do? Couldn't even afford McDonald's coffee.
Yeah, that's a reality check moment, I think, for anybody that anybody can relate to, right? Not being able to spring for coffee. I have to say, Ronda, and hearing you tell the story, while it's greatly compelling, I'm trying to understand how you went to such a poor place so quickly. I think maybe it comes from a misunderstanding for me of maybe the kind of compensation you can get while training on the Olympic track. What's the income like? Obsessively doing judo versus afterwards.
You get reimbursement for a lot of your travel if you fight well enough. Mm-hmm. I got a bronze medal in the Olympics, and they were like, "Here's $10,000 in a handshake. By the way, we're going to tax you on that $10,000 in April." And it took way more money than that to get there. People don't realize that a lot of these Olympians aren't making any good money at all. They're making barely enough to get by, and then after they're done, there's nothing set in place to help them. There used to be a couple things to help, people trying to get to the Olympics work, but I think Home Depot dropped that program, and I don't know what else is going on. There's just, when you're done competing, there's nothing for you. There's no help for you. There's just, you have no work experience, no education, and you have no skills. What else are you going to do? I had nothing.
You mentioned bartending. You mentioned graveyard shifts and things like that. It really is. All of a sudden, you find yourself in this position. How did your mom recover so handsomely from coming off that competitive career and get such advanced degrees and things like that? I mean, what was her ability to pivot off of judo?
Well, my mom is actually a genius. She got a perfect score at the SATs. She graduated from college at 19. While she wasn't just doing judo when she won the world championships. She was getting her PhD, working as an engineer and a single mother all at the same time.
Wow.
My mom is just absolutely amazing, and she found a way to make it all work. And I try my best to live up to that, but I couldn't make all that stuff work at the same time like she could.
When did mixed martial arts first enter your mind?
When I came back from Japan, and I was just like, I just kind of thought about my options, and I thought, okay, I can either go to the Coast Guard and become a rescue swimmer, which sounded really cool, or I could try this MMA thing, and, because I would see these girls fight on TV, and I was like, the thing that really frustrated me about judo is, not only the times I lost, it was like to kind of like point fighters, or something like, I felt like if it was a fight, I could beat the crap out of those girls, and I was just so frustrated that it didn't count, and so when I saw these girls doing MMA, I just thought, like, I could beat these girls. Like, I always had this idea in my head that I was the toughest chick on the planet, and I already had the best ground game of any of these girls, of any girl in judo. You can ask anyone in judo. Everyone knew I had the best ground game. But you have a very limited amount of time to work on the ground. So everyone was talking about MMA, and I was like, wait a minute. I have a limited amount of time to work on the ground. Like, I couldn't beat anyone like that, I just figured that, I'm going to try the MMA thing first, and then if that doesn't work out, I'll try the Coast Guard later. But the MMA thing has been working out.
And having that limited time and mastering and drilling really your whole life, taking full advantage of that limited time to hit arm bars, it strikes me as something that might be a new frontier for mixed martial artists in training. We always talk about, how wrestling is the best base to start from and all of this, and how much the striking training is evolving. But, the truth is, as guys and gals get better and better at getting up after being taken down and getting out from underneath opponents, you don't have unlimited time unless you have exceptional top control to catch submissions. It sounds like more and more the kind of skills you have, hitting a submission in an instant as soon as it hits the floor, is going to become the state of the art.
Yeah, well, transition was always a big thing, from transitioning straight from standing in the ground, because that's the best time to catch somebody. It takes, it always takes the person a moment to go from, change their brain from, oh, I'm standing to, oh, I'm on the ground, and if you can make that switch faster than anybody else, then you have a jump on them. Just like when you first enter the clinch is the best time to throw somebody, because they go from, oh, I'm not clinched to now I'm clinched, and you just have to be the first person to be able to adjust to the situation, and that's an advantage, So my mom would always, drill, follow up. Every time I hit a throw, every time I hit the ground, you had to always follow it up on the ground, It was ingrained in me. So it's something that I think, judo you don't have to have a good ground game, but the people that do, I think would have a great advantage over anybody else. Any other style, It's the only grappling art that really has takedowns, transitioning into the ground, and submission. It just seems like if you're a well-rounded judo player, I think you're the most well-rounded kind of grappler.
Yeah, and you've proven that it can be so deadly and so hard for opponents to see coming when you've developed the kind of instincts that you have. March 27th, 2011, King of the Cage Turning Point. You defeat Edian Gomes with an armbar in the first round, as we've come to know. Talk about your first fight.
Well, 3 days before that fight, this goes into my pampered upbringing. My roommate's pit bull decided to get in a fight with my dog, which is a gnarly dog. And so I hear them fighting in our room, and I see my dog at this pit bull's throat, and I kick my dog off, and the dog's flailing around. And the dog bit me in the foot, bit me down to the bone, ripped a bunch of the flesh off. I was wearing socks, not really good protection for pit bull bites. And I had 6 stitches on the top of my foot and 3 on the arch. And the doctor said, you can't fight. And I was like, yes, I am, because this was really hard to get this fight. Not a lot of people wanted to fight me.
Right.
So, I had to, I couldn't run or do anything to co-ace. I just had to not eat or drink for a few days. And the doctor was like, look, you're going to burst these stitches open, and you're going to bleed all over the place, and they're going to be onto you within, a minute or two. You're not even going to make it out of the first round without bleeding everywhere. I just had it in my head. I'm like, well, I'm just going to have to win in the first couple seconds then, aren't I? And, this girl, Ediana Gomez, she was 6-1. She was no slouch.
Yeah.
And, she was flying in from Florida, from America's Top Team. And so we found a way to get an ankle sleeve because we couldn't tape it. That's against the rules. And I put it on upside down to hide it. And when we were weighing in, they said, our plan was weighing with socks on. We got up there. The girl was 4 pounds overweight. And they're like, yeah, you can't weigh in with socks on, nothing. So I was freaking out. My manager, I guess he didn't even think of it. And, they would see it. There was gashing wounds on my foot,
Right.
And they were fresh gashing wounds. Like, they were still bleeding. They were, still blood coming out of them. And I was trying so hard just not to limp at the weigh-ins, Yeah. And, oh, man, we had to do this test. We had to hop on both feet. Oh, God, that sucked. But what's it called? So we went to weigh in, and I was just like, hey, guess what? I'm getting naked. And everyone's like, what? Your opponent's, because I jumped on the scale, and I was on weight, and the other person's 4 pounds over was like, no, I drank too much water, naked time. So everyone's like, you're nuts. I'm like, who cares? Get a towel, shirt coming off now. So they're like, all right, I'll have towels. And everyone was kind of confused. So I turned my back to everybody, and I took all my clothes off, socks last, put all my clothes back on, socks first. And I snuck in that way. And, I got in there to fight, and I won in 26 seconds because I had to. And the funny thing is, you can see when I swept the girl, the part that I swept her, that foot, the part of the foot that swept her was exactly where my stitches were on the side, like on the arch of my foot. And then I had to go to work the next morning because, you know what, MMA wasn't paying the bills, and I had to go to work.
Where did you report to work? What was the job?
That was at the dog place.
The dog place, yeah. Now, I want to make sure I understand. So your strategy there was to undress so that it would take attention away from the fact that you were going to step on the scale with a sock on and nobody could see it.
No. I couldn't wear a sock. So if they saw me take a sock off, they would have seen my feet. So they had to hold up towels, and the guy doing the weigh-ins was a man. He wasn't going to stare at me. He was just going to look at the numbers on the scale. So he didn't look at me, and no one was looking at me, and I had my back to everyone. They couldn't see my feet. And so that was the only way I could really, get away with it.
Brilliant. Very, very cerebral. Your mother would be proud.
Yeah, that was on the fly. I remember my heart was like, when they said no socks. I'm like, what do I do? Well, it's one of those few moments where getting nude in public is the solution.
What was it like meeting Judo Gene LaBelle for the first time?
Oh, God, I was a little kid. I didn't even know who he was. He gave me a little patch that had him twisting some guy's leg in a pretzel, and it said, break a leg. It means good luck. He gave it to me when I was like a little kid at a judo tournament, and I was like, oh, cool patch. Nice to meet you, Uncle Gene. Like that. I was like a little kid.
Now, you, of course, reconnected with him and trained alongside him. Tell us about the role Gene LaBelle has played in your life.
Gene's been great. He's always been there, He's always been supportive, and everyone at Heiston, that really taught me a lot too, It was just an environment where it was all men speaking Armenian, I felt completely out of place, If you thought I felt out of place being, the North Dakota chick at the Mexican school, I was totally out of place being the white girl in the Armenian dojo,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but they were all great and welcoming, and I just saw Carl today. We were just wrestling, and we were talking about 15 years ago when we started training together, and I was just a tiny little girl, and I remember that my mom was, all the other judo clubs around the area said that all the Armenian guys, they're mean, and they're going to be mean to your daughter, and So my mom was worried. She talked to Carl. She's like, can you make sure that no one's mean to my little girl? And he's like, he grabbed me and he pulled me in front of everyone in the school, and he was like, look, if any of you guys pick on this girl in the sorriest little bit, I'm going to beat the crap out of you. Like,
wow.
He straight up told everybody that, if they're going to mess with me, he was going to kill them.
And that's Carl Parisian you're talking about, Rhonda?
Yeah. Him and Manny, I love them so much. I've known them for forever, and they've always had my back, and they've always made me feel welcome. Even though, sometimes they would go off in Armenian and everyone would be like, whoosh, goosh, 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 Rhonda, ha, 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 whoosh, goosh, goosh. And I'm like, what the hell? But I'm just used to it now.
Well, you can go. As far, not just athletically, but verbally. The snap of a finger and you go. Every interview I've ever heard you do is full of energy, full of intent, full of it's just, you know how to do it. And one of the things in going through this, knowing that Gene LaBelle is, you can't shut him up. You can't even try to shut him up. Did you impart any verbal skills from being around Gene LaBelle? Because he's one of a kind when it comes to talking.
Yeah, Gene's coached me a little bit about how you really have to say like this and put a tone into that and make things exciting when you interview. But I think it's mostly when I was training with the guys and, when I ran away from home too, I was living in these houses just full of men athletes, and a lot of times guys, they feel uncomfortable training with a girl and, the way that they're going to make themselves comfortable is they're just going to give her a hard time all the time, you know? So I was just used to everyone just talking shit and insulting me all the time. So I had to get quick and fire back, you know? So I was just always used to this banter where, you know, they're going to talk shit to me, I'm talking shit back to them, you know, and that was just how I would just kind of hang in there. And so now this whole, like, you know, MMA trash talking thing is just like, it's pretty much just like banter, to the same kind of banter that we would do like in the house or at the club, you know. It was just, you know, how we would talk to each other, you know. So except for we would do it, you know, in a friendly way, so no one got offended. But if it's somebody you don't know, then someone's going to get offended.
Yeah, it's interesting that as you're saying this, it's starting to add up in a way for me, Rhonda, in that the way you do interviews and the things you say and the way you look at the game and talk about the game, it has great appeal to the male fan, you know, and I think it might come from bouncing these kind of ideas off of your male campmates to get them to accept you. You know, you understand how to talk in a way that might get a guy's attention. Do you think that you put off females in a way? Do you think it's in a way female fans aren't as attracted to the way you present yourself verbally as male fans are?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, some girls love it and some girls hate it. It's just like, I was never that social in school. I didn't really have that many friends, and it was in judo and athletics that I really, you know, found my way to be able to connect with people and feel comfortable. And so much ever since I was a little kid, you know, all the people that I felt comfortable talking to and relaxing around were all men that are much older than me. Mm-hmm. You know, so, you know, if you're 14 years old and all the people that are pretty much your friends are men in their mid-20s, you're going to talk like them. And, you know, I never really talked like a girl. And I always kind of swore a little bit too much. And, you know, I kind of have a much more abrasive sense of humor than, you know, some women are used to. And that rubs a lot of girls the wrong way. But, you know, I also have a lot of fiercely loyal girlfriends who, you know, that's what they love about me. And it's like, you know what, if people care about you, they're going to take you for however you are. So, you know, I can't try to be somebody that I'm not to try and fit into what a girl is supposed to be like or supposed to talk like. This is just, you know, how I'm comfortable.
Is it a different world for you in MMA having this personality, which it sounds like you also had in judo? You know, you had to have it training with guys as much as you did to make it as far as you did. Is it different for you in MMA with Twitter, with all of the MMA websites, with such a constant stream of feedback to the way you are, as opposed to just having to be that way, you know, kind of in private in camp? It's not like, you know, the International Judo Federation is putting a microphone in front of you every other day asking you to talk about your opponent.
Yeah, I mean, like, with judo, I always had to be very politically correct with my answers, and very safe with my answers, because it was the Olympics. You know, you were representing your country, not yourself. You couldn't be yourself. You had to be an American. And with MMA, you know, I'm only representing myself. So I feel like it's developing the kind of personality that everybody else perceives is kind of like a fun new toy, you know? I can't expect everybody to know who I am as a person or understand me or have any accurate idea of what I'm like, you know, but I can at least be as fun and entertaining as possible when I speak. And so it's something that people want to watch and want to hear, you know, so it's more fun. It is a little more fun. It's also more tiring because it's work. I only started doing Twitter like a couple months ago, and now it's like turned into like all I do all day is all this social networking stuff, but it's really important. You know, my sister covers social networking for, you know, all for social networking for ESPN, and, you know, this stuff is important. This is what, it's the fastest exchange of information out there, and that's how, you know, that's how I've gotten myself to be known, pretty much, is just all through social networking and all these small MMA sites, and just doing every single offer that comes my way. I'm like, okay, I'll do every single interview I can. I will put every single bit of information out there that I can. And it also kind of sucks because you have no privacy and you're selling yourself and you're, you know, not so necessarily your secrets, but it's sensitive information, you know. These are a lot of the stuff, like, you know, like kind of these hardship stuff with my family and all these things. Like, these aren't things that you would tell someone that you just met at a bar. but you're telling all this stuff to a bunch of strangers because you need to sell yourself and sell your story in order to actually make some money, and it sucks. It's what I feel like I need to do. I would rather, I don't think my dad would mind me talking about him and what happened to us as long as, I'm healthy and happy and taken care of.
Do you find it hard to be honest time and time again as, the position you're in demands more and more of your personal story to come out? Because it seems to me a lot of fighters, they start out in that position, of doing as many interviews as they can, people getting to know them, people asking more and more kind of probing and personal questions, and then there's a lockdown point. They figure out formulaic answers to questions to get in and get out. Do you feel it hard to be honest with yourself and still answer personal questions?
No, I'm a terrible liar. So I get a lot of things from people being like, you shouldn't overtly say that you're just saying this to hype the fight. I'm like, what else am I supposed to do if someone asks? They ask me, why did you say that? I'm like, well, because it's funny, and it's true. I wouldn't say that to a stranger. I'm saying it because it helps hype the fight. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to tell you why. And I just feel like it'd be easier to just say I'm not going to answer that question instead of, say something that isn't true. Because I think one thing that people really like and makes people feel like they know somebody is that they want to cheer for the athletes that they feel like they know or they can relate to. And if they're talking like politicians, they feel like they're being insincere. It doesn't, they don't feel any kind of connection to them. So I just try to be as candid and sincere as I can. And, sometimes I try to be a little bit over the top too because we're entertainers after all, aren't we?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this, you get a lot more opportunities a lot more quickly if you're an entertainer than if you're not. If you don't view that as part of your job, it takes a whole lot more wins and a whole lot more time to get the same opportunities. I mean, here you are on the doorstep of a title shot. It has a lot to do with the fact that, in your 4 fights you've gotten such quick and impressive wins, and there's a mystique now to you as to what happens if you go into the second round. It's just a whole story, but plus amp it up with that personality and you get the title shot. It's like, we've heard the case made. You've heard Misha Tate even talk about, Sarah Kaufman, Alexis Davis, other fighters who have a bit more tenure in the game, getting the title shot for the sake of sport. But, I look around, Ronda, and that never seems to win out. Your approach always seems to win out. So I don't know why all fighters don't see the value in it and do that.
It's not always winning out just talking. But like you said, it's a combination of a lot of things. And if you're not going to, if you're not going to take every single avenue to try and sell yourself, if you're only going to do it from performance only, then it's going to take longer. It's just the way it is. And a lot of these girls, too, they're like, well, we've been fighting longer, but the performances haven't been that exciting either. And I'm just like, look, if your performances aren't that exciting and your interviews aren't that exciting and the way that you're presenting yourself isn't that interesting, why do you expect people to want to see you fight?
Yeah, it's pretty elementary, but something that can be hard for a fighter, I think, to cram into a brain that's so full of, fight intelligence, fight IQ. It's kind of a different IQ that I don't know if a lot of athletes can necessarily find both in themselves. And your life experiences, I think, help you out quite a bit, right? Not everybody can have seen as much as you've seen and kind of been through as much as you have and been in a unique position like you have. There's ways to come up in the game now, Ronda. I would say they're pampered, you mentioned as a word earlier, but maybe a more insulated, people constantly telling you you're great and don't do this and don't do that and just taking direction, never really finding yourself.
Yeah, that's another saying of my mom that she crammed into my head. She always said, never believe your own press. It's just the people around you are the people that want you to like them. You can't only listen to them, and I'm very fortunate that I have surrounded myself with a lot of people that they're not all trying to be my best friend. They're all trying to make sure, that I'm okay and everything, turns out for the best. And they're willing to tell me the things that I don't want to hear. And I'm very lucky, with that. And I think that's so funny that all these people think that I think I'm so amazing and everyone's just telling me how awesome I am and I have this overly inflated ego. I'm like, dude, whenever I'm home, everyone takes it upon themselves to give me the ego check because they think that everyone else isn't doing it.
Right, so 100% of the people are just constantly ego checking you.
Yeah. Everyone that's like close to my camp is always telling me like, "Don't think you're so great." And then when I go, I'm like, "God, I can't wait to go to another one of these fights so people can tell me I'm cool again."
Where did the Rowdy nickname come from?
Oh shit! Driving, cell phone, almost hit people.
Don't want that.
Roddy Piper. Yeah, I was really big into professional wrestling when I was a kid. I had a Hulk Hogan wrestling buddy, which coincidentally I repeatedly ripped the arm off of it, and it was sewed on with dental floss. Yeah, it was really funny. This whole story. I remember I was turning 4, maybe I was turning 6. I don't know what I was turning 4 or 5 or 6, something like that. And I was back when I couldn't talk very well. And then, my dad was like, "What do you want for your birthday? What do you want?" And I was like, "I want Balgrin." He was like, "A Balgrin?" I was like, "Get Balgrin!" And I'm like, all right. So we went to every single toy store. Like, "Do you have a Balgrin? Do you have a Balgrin?" No, I don't have Balgrin. From toy store to toy store to toy store. Did not find Balgrin. And we finally went to, the biggest Toys R Us there is. My dad goes straight to the manager, grabs him, and he's like, "Look, my baby girl is turning, 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever today, and she wants a Balgrin. I don't know what the fuck a Balgrin is, but I'm going to get a goddamn Balgrin for this girl." And he, sits down there, and the manager is like, "Okay, what's a Balgrin? What do you do?" It's like, and I was like, "Well, you kick and you phone and wrestle and you get him." And, I couldn't really say it right. And they're like, "Oh, she wants a Hulk Hogan wrestling buddy." That's what I really wanted. When I was a little kid, I wanted a wrestling buddy. But, in my words, it was Balgrin.
So Balgrin was Hulk Hogan? Balgrin
was Hulk Hogan, yes.
What a perfect example. Now I can kind of tell what you were saying earlier as far as the speech thing. That's hilarious. So you were putting the armbar on it? Is that why the arm was ripped off? Or?
I don't know. Just rip it off. Also, we drew an evil mustache on it, the curly mustache. It was a bad guy in a lot of our play games.
Oh, you drew a curly mustache on Hulk Hogan? I don't know if he'd appreciate that. That sounded like it was several years before he actually went with the black beard.
Yeah, it was. We did. We manifested it. We did a little voodoo action on him.
So you wanted the Hogan doll. Why did you end up picking Rowdy for the nickname then? A Piper fan as well?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I was a wrestling fan in general. I remember we had that video game. They had the old wrestling video games, and I remember we would flip through all the different players, because all the different players would have their own song. There was the money, 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 money. They all had different songs in each one, and we always had it around. And I loved that stuff before I knew it was fake.
Was that a moment for you, finding out it was fake? Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember. I think I was over it by the time I found out it was fake.
Yeah.
I was already by then, and I was like, "So what? Cheeto's cool,"
That's right. Yeah, so you're already past that for sure. I think the game you're referencing, Ronda, if I'm not mistaken, sounds like WWF WrestleMania 1985, right? Was Bam Bam Bigelow in the game?
No. It was after 85. It was 90s. It was 90s. But I think it was WrestleMania something.
Oh, okay. All right. No, I remember the songs, as you put it.
Yeah.
All right, so that's where Rowdy comes from, indeed, from Roddy Piper. It sounds exactly the same. Let's close out talking about the state of things now. You've done an amazing job getting us into kind of your head, coming up in the world, coming up in judo and eventually mixed martial arts, and everybody wants to talk to you about the present, and we will touch on it here before we wrap up. One of the first things I wanted to ask you about was when the top featherweight female fighter in the world, Chris Cyborg, popped for steroids. You had some very forward comments about that whole situation, and I wondered if it had anything to do with your knowledge of how stringent drug testing is and PED testing is in the Olympics. I mean, you must look at the situation in place from a drug testing standpoint in MMA, and it must be nothing compared to the Olympics.
I mean, it is nothing compared to the Olympics, but in the Olympics, people found a way around it too. I always assumed that I was the only one not doping, and it was always not fair. And I just was like, you know what? I just have to be good enough to be better than anyone, regardless of what kind of training they get or what kind of drugs they're taking. I just kind of had this attitude, well, screw them and screw their drugs and screw their funding and screw all that shit. I wanted to be so good that even them cheating would never be as good as me. So it was just something that I always kind of had that chip and anger on my shoulder because of that. And, I just kind of unleashed a lot of it when she got top of those steroids. I knew she was doing steroids. I knew a lot of the girls that I fought, even in judo, were doping, and that always pissed me off. And then to see someone get caught for it, and to see all these people being sympathetic towards her, it pissed me off even more. You know, so I felt like, you know what? Everyone wants to take the safe route. Everyone wants to play buddy-buddy. That's fine. I'll be the asshole and say what's really up. You know, like, I didn't say anything terrible, like,
Nope.
that was not true. I was just the only one that had the balls to speak the truth.
What is the truth? What is up with that issue?
What do you mean?
You said, I'm the one that's going to say what's up, and I'm speaking the truth on this issue. And I think...
You wanted me to reiterate again so you can have the soundbite? I mean, you can just...
No.
You know what I'm going to say. You know what I said. I said that because what she did after that is she took this picture of Gina Carano, who she owes all of her fame to, took it, photoshopped it so it looked like her face was bloodied up and swollen and cut from their fight, and then she put victim Ronda under it, and I was like, A, I can't believe you referred to Gina as your victim after everything that you have is thanks to her, and B, I can't believe that you would bring that up because you just got popped for doping, and she never would have beat Gina if she wasn't doping, because Gina actually, got a couple great shots and her mounted her, all this stuff, and if Cyborg didn't goon her around, there's no way she would have won. And I was just so pissed that she would do something like that. And I was like, not only are you a dick, but you have a dick, you fucking cheater. Like, I was just so mad that no one else was angry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no one else stuck up for her. No one else said anything.
And I hear you.
That's the real problem.
That's the real shocking
thing. The shocking thing isn't that I said something. The shocking thing was that everyone else was silent.
Let me tell you, we've talked about PEDs and MMA on this show for a straight year last year, brought in a lot of people who know a lot about the issue, and I couldn't agree with you more. I wasn't even asking Ronda and asking you what's up with the issue about Cyborg in particular. I was asking you about doping in sports in general, in particular in judo and in MMA, and why it's so endemic. Because, I mean, you stand as an example, right? I mean, if you're clean, you stand as an example of how high you can go and how much you can achieve and how dynamic and powerful you can be. It puzzles kind of the general person who might not be an athlete as to why then it's so appealing to people to do PEDs.
Because it just comes from lack of self-confidence. If people don't think they're good enough, then they feel like they need to do something else. And a lot of the thing is, a lot of people that do cheat, they convince themselves that everyone else is doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Every single person that's caught doping, they're like, well, everyone else is doping. I'm just trying to even it out. Every single person says that's caught. And it's not true. You don't need to do that. And even if there are people doping, it's not impossible to beat people that are doping. You just have to get that much better than them. And I think that, there needs to be... People don't realize that these athletes are role models. I mean, all these people are getting popped for steroids, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, whatever. And, you're teaching kids that in order to be the best, you need to cheat. And it's just wrong. It's wrong in every way. And with MMA, it's even more wrong because it's a really high-risk sport. People have died doing judo. Luckily, no one's died doing MMA, but, people die doing boxing every year. These are combat. This is unarmed combat. Mm-hmm. If you have unnatural strength advantage in unarmed combat, it's a lot more likely that someone could die. And you were willing to risk that someone could die or get permanently injured so you could have, a nicer number on your record. It's just negligent and wrong in every single way. And I don't see how anyone could wave that off like it ain't no thing.
It seems to happen, though, Ronda. I mean, I don't see the moment of truth coming for this issue anytime soon. I mean, we've seen waves and waves and waves of high-profile cases. And it's the same thing. It's, the same. I'm not saying everybody's guilty. I'm not an expert. But you hear the same things every time. Very few people admit to it. And even when they do admit to it, it doesn't seem to be any forward motion on the issue. I mean, have you ever given it any thought as to what could be done to change the culture? It's a tall order, but, someone like yourself with your opinions might think what could be done.
The only thing that I have the power to do is to fight clean and win anyway. And that's the only thing I can do is just try and change by example. And if people start to see that it's possible to win without that stuff, then they won't feel any need to do it. That's all I can do. All I can do is win and be clean.
and you've done that in just blink of an eye fashion, as we've seen in your pro as well as your amateur MMA career, for that matter. When you entered Strikeforce, it was in the 145-pound division. People were asking you about Cyborg almost immediately, and you were,
People were asking me about Cyborg before I even had my first amateur fight.
Wow, is that right?
Yeah,
really?
They were offering me that fight before I even had my first amateur fight.
What do you think of that?
I think that, I thought of my career as a whole, not as, a quick way to make a buck. And I always had that goal to fight her and beat her, but there is a way to go about things. I always think of it like that was my Olympic Games. Like I'm not gonna try and fight the Olympics when I'm first getting started. I have a plan and like how I'm going to develop myself and train and be ready for this day. And I really feel like her getting popped for steroids is actually perfect for me, because now I can insist on fighting her at a lighter weight, and I can have the amount of time to improve and feel like I'm more peaked by the time that the fight would come around. So, I'm definitely planning on fighting her in the future, and I'm going to fight her under the most beneficial circumstances for me possible. Sure.
Because it was, a lot of fans noted that you were talking about Miesha Tate. It seemed, even to close observers, all of a sudden you had your eye on 135. And this was before the steroids controversy around Chris Cyborg. Can you talk a little bit about where in your head you shifted attention from Cyborg to Miesha Tate?
Well, it was definitely as I was trying to do MMA, my body was changing. My resting rate started to get lower and lower and lower and lower. And it just happened to be that the day that all that Twitter stuff happened, where, Miesha said that she would be down to fight me and asked me if I'd be able to make 135, was, the day that I was actually like, you know what, I was 145 today. I realized that, that's actually extremely doable for me. And that's probably a smarter move for me. And I was just thinking about, how the fight between me and Cyborg would be presented and marketed and all this stuff. And I was like, if I won the belt down there first and then came up there later, then that would be a huge fight, And then it was like, and then if I had 2 belts, then that would be like, an even bigger deal. And then I started thinking about that, and then she got caught for steroids and all this stuff. And, now the future of 45 is questionable, and actually it's still great at 35. I mean, my joints have never felt so good. My arthritis has gotten so much better. And now I can actually insist on fighting her at 35, because I can be like, yo, she quits doing steroids, she can make the weight, and if she doesn't, then there'll be just as much of a detriment as help to her, and that's the only way I think it would be fair.
It's amazing that you made that kind of shift when you did, because of what ended up happening at 145, and now it's like this kind of smoking gun. There's nothing behind you. There's nothing at 145 anymore. It's like this barren area, and you happen to be challenging for a belt in what is all of a sudden a tremendously busy weight class and the marquee weight class for females in the sport right now. And I've seen some of the promos that have come out. Just amazing stuff. Yourself and Miesha doing this kind of. It looked like it was shot in a theater, like a kind of an old time theater of you guys kind of facing off in formal wear and then in your ring gear. Talk about making that promo, because that has really, really amped up kind of the anticipation for this fight.
It was really cool. It was shot at the Avalon. We were told to bring, like, a really elegant dress and then our really grungy fighting clothes. So I brought a really elegant dress and really grungy fighting clothes. And, Miesha brought, like, a skin-tight see-through lace dress and, some booty shorts and a booster bra. And she says that I'm the one that tries to use my looks to market myself too much. I'm like, all right, honey, whatever you want. Like, she would never fight in that outfit in her life. I just thought that was funny. She, did her whole thing of, like, not looking at me, and, I think it's so funny that she's so down to, like, talk a bunch of trash about me, or not so much, she's down to retweet a lot of the trash talk about me. And she doesn't have the balls to look at me or say anything to my face, which I just find that hilarious. And then she went and told everybody that I was scared of her or something at the promo thing. I also found that very amusing.
What do you think of that process of going face-to-face with your opponent like that, even for promotional purposes, so close to the fight?
I think of it as the fight starts as soon as it's announced, and, all this has a psychological effect. Every single time we do a joint interview or a joint thing, I always try to get under her nerves and get under her skin as much as possible. Every single time we've done a debate or interview together, I always try to, just kind of get a couple jabs in on her, just to bug her. Because, I know that I'm wittier than her and more well-spoken than her, and she knows it too. So whenever, I catch her in her interview and kind of make her sound dumb, I know she just is kind of getting used to being owned on me on the regular.
And this is something, God, we've been seeing it for decades, particularly in boxing. The Muhammad Ali playbook. Before him, you might say Classy Freddie Blassie and Gorgeous George, who inspired Ali, just getting in their opponent's head or talking up a fight in that way. For you, name like two things that you accomplish by trying to get under Miesha Tate's skin in interviews and in talking to her. What do you accomplish by doing that?
Well, I accomplished by putting a lot more pressure on her that she's not used to. I'm used to this kind of banter, and I'm used to very, very high-pressure situations, whereas, she hasn't really had to deal with that much, overt confrontation with her opponents, and she really hasn't had to deal with that much huge pressure. Like, she fought for the belt against Marlou, but, it wasn't that much of a high-profile fight, and I don't think, that many people were paying attention to it, and this is a huge thing where there's a big build-up, and, there's a lot of pride on the line for this, and she's said a couple of things where I feel like she really is setting herself up to lose already. Like she said in a recent interview with Karen Bryant that she prefers the more humble approach because when you lose, it's not that big of a deal. And these tiny little Freudian slips that I see coming out of her, they give me confidence, and they're slowly pecking away at hers.
Well, the fight is March 3rd. It will be on Showtime, and it has become a remarkable promotion, in the middle of such an incredibly busy period for mixed martial arts where there are high-profile shows on, it seems, not only every week, sometimes twice a week. It's amazing that a female fight not involving Gina Carano or Chris Cyborg has reached the profile that this one has. The main event, the marquee, the final fight. Tell us, Ronda, what this fight represents, not just that night, but represents in terms of really the arc of your life, because we've touched on it all. You've been so great in going through just really everything you've been through. I feel like I've got the whole story on your life.
Yeah, you haven't got near the whole story.
Well, I think I've got as much as the story I feel comfortable asking you to tell.
Today.
I mean, you've told us a lot. So put this fight in the context of your life, if that's not asking too much.
You know what? I just feel like everything has just kind of been pushing me in this direction all along, and I feel like everything happens for a reason. If my dad didn't die, I never would have done judo and gone to the Olympics. I never quit judo. I never would have done MMA. If I wasn't, broke and desperate, I never would have pushed to get this title shot as fast as I have, and all of this is just kind of the crescendo of every single obstacle and hardship that I've had so far, and I feel like life has been pulling me towards this all along, and I'm meant to be here, and I'm meant to win this.